Have you ever saved money so meticulously that you began to disappear? You skip the morning coffee, then the afternoon tea, then the small joys of a shared dessert with a loved one. Eventually, you start skipping life itself. You sit in a room with a growing bank balance, yet you feel poorer than ever because you are haunted by a single, terrifying thought. One bad day could take it all away. There is a radical saying, never save money. It sounds reckless, like an invitation to waste, but its true meaning is profound. It suggests that money should help you live, not make you afraid to touch it. Saving is a discipline, but without a purpose, it becomes a cage. In a small town where the power grid was as fragile as a spider web, lived a man named Ethan. He was a quiet man, a security guard who worked the graveyard shift at a distant warehouse. His life was a cycle of gray. Gray dawn when he walked home, gray exhaustion when he tried to sleep, and gray anxiety about the bills that arrived like clockwork. In this town, electricity was a luxury that flickered and died without warning. When the lights went out, the rhythm of life broke. Food turned sour and silent refrigerators. Children did their homework by the flickering, dangerous flame of a cheap candle, and the darkness felt like a physical weight on every doorstep. One evening, while Ethan sat at the dinner table with his wife Mia and their son Leo, the hum of the house vanished. The bulb overhead died. In the sudden, suffocating blackness, Mia struck a match. The tiny flame illuminated her face, not angry, just profoundly tired. "How am I supposed to see the numbers, Dad?" Leo asked, staring at his math book in the dim orange glow. That question pierced Ethan's heart. He realized his family wasn't just living in the dark, they were becoming part of it. That night, he made a vow. He would save for a generator. In this town, a generator was the ultimate symbol of safety. It was the full envelope that would keep the wolves at bay. Ethan took a thick manila envelope and wrote "generator" in bold black letters. He hid it in the bottom drawer of his dresser, beneath his oldest shirts. To fill it, Ethan began a war of attrition against his own comfort. He stopped buying the loose-leaf tea that warmed his throat after a long night shift. He stopped buying fresh fruit for Leo. He wore his work shoes until the soles were as thin as paper, feeling every pebble on the road like a penance. At first, the weight of the envelope was a comfort. It grew thick and stiff with bills. But a strange thing happened. The more the envelope grew, the more terrified Ethan became. He stopped laughing at home because laughter felt like a distraction from the mission. He became a ghost in his own house, obsessed with the safety hidden in a drawer. Then life intervened. It always does. Leo woke up one night shivering with a fever that scorched his skin. The local clinic demanded payment up front. With shaking hands, Ethan reached into the drawer. He tore open the envelope. In minutes, months of sacrifices, the skipped teas, the worn shoes, the missed joys, evaporated to pay for antibiotics and a doctor's touch. Leo got better, but Ethan felt a coldness that no fever could match. Soon after, the rent rose. Then his supervisor told him his tattered shoes were a safety hazard. He had to buy new ones or lose his job. The envelope was empty again. Ethan didn't just feel broke, he felt defeated. He realized that saving money to be safe was like trying to catch the wind with a net. The harder he gripped the net, the more exhausted he became, yet the wind blew right through. One night, during a total blackout that turned the street into a void, Ethan saw a miracle. Across the road, the house of Mrs. Carter was glowing. Mrs. Carter was an old widow who sold snacks to school children. She wasn't rich, yet her window cast a steady, warm light onto the pavement. Ethan knocked on her door, squinting against the brightness.
"Mrs. Carter," he whispered, "how do you have light? Did you buy a generator?" She laughed, a sound like dry leaves. "A generator? No, Ethan. That is too much machine for a woman like me. I bought a rechargeable lantern. I charge it at the school during the day, and at night I rent it to the shopkeeper next door for a few coins. It gives me light, and it gives me a little extra for my bread." Ethan stared at the lantern. It wasn't a shrine to safety like his envelope. It was a tool. It worked. It moved. It returned value. That night, Ethan didn't put his remaining coins back into the drawer. He sat at the kitchen table, watching the candle gutter and die. He realized his mistake. He had been treating money like a secret to be guarded, rather than a seed to be planted. The next morning, with a heart racing from the risk of spending, Ethan did the unthinkable. He didn't save. He invested. He bought 2 high-quality rechargeable lanterns and a small portable power bank. He felt exposed, as if he had stripped off his armor. But he made a deal with the local barber. He would help the barber clean up at closing time in exchange for using the shop's wall outlets to charge his gear during the day. During the next blackout, Ethan didn't sit in the dark. He walked the streets with his lanterns. He offered to let neighbors charge their phones for a tiny fee, just enough to cover his time and the wear on the equipment. The first night he earned very little, but as he walked home, he felt a strange electricity in his own limbs. This money felt heavy in a different way. It wasn't the weight of a burden, it was the weight of a tool. Months passed. The envelope was no longer hidden under shirts. It was tucked into a notebook where Ethan tracked his earnings. He bought a 3rd lantern, then a 4th. Then he saved enough, not by skipping meals, but by using his small profits, to buy a modest solar panel. When the sun hit that panel for the first time, Ethan felt a peace he hadn't known in years. He wasn't safe because he had a pile of cash. He was resilient because he had a system that generated value. One evening, the power failed again, but Ethan's house stayed bright. Leo sat at the table, his math book illuminated by a steady white glow. "Are we finally safe now, Dad?" Leo asked. Ethan looked at the solar panel outside and the notebook on the table. "Safety isn't about hiding, Leo," he said gently. "It's about building something that can stand up again after the storm passes." Ethan's story is a reminder that life does not wait for perfect plans or full envelopes. If you spend your entire life preparing to live, you will eventually find that you have run out of life to live. Money is like water. If you dam it up and let it sit still, it becomes stagnant and fills you with fear that it will leak away. But if you let it flow, if you guide it through your life with care, courage, and purpose, it can power a mill, it can water a garden, and it can turn the deepest darkness into light. Do not save just to feel safe. Invest to become capable. Build your light, and the darkness will no longer have power over you.